everyone. Welcome to Anchor Moments with Gina LaBenz. I'm Gina, and I'm here today with a really special friend, my friend Jimmy Silva. Jimmy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Jimmy Silva, as you mentioned, and I own the UPS store on Chandler and Dobson in Chandler. I've been living in Arizona for just right about 20 years, and I'm married to my wife Michelle for the last 24 years. Just
Oh,
celebrated
wow.
24 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you, and continue to learn and grow and enjoy my residency here in Arizona, and just recently adopted 4 children.
Yeah, 4 children at one
All at
time.
the same time,
At
yes.
all at the same time. So you went from a house of 0 kids
Correct.
to 4 kids that were already brothers and sisters. Can you tell us about that?
Correct, yes. So the children that we adopted were in foster care for approximately around 4 years.
Okay.
Our sign says 1,517 days they were in foster care before they were
Wow.
actually adopted. They were actually adopted 1 year ago today.
Is it 1 year ago today?
1 year ago today, yeah,
Wow.
was our
Do you
official.
know, that's an anchor moment.
It is.
I swear on my life, I did not know that it was 1 year ago today.
Today's our adoption day, May 22nd.
Wow. Well, happy Adoption Day.
Well,
That is
thank
so
you.
exciting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jimmy?
So the kids were in foster care for, like I said, 4 years.
Okay.
And they were all living in the same house at the same time, obviously, when they went
Okay.
into foster care together. Then they were split up a few times throughout their journey through the foster care system before they were sort of reunited towards the end, before they became into our custody. So then they were all kind of reunited, and we took them into our home there when we were living in Chandler, and they became our kids essentially. And throughout that journey too, them kind of reassimilating themselves as siblings under our care, that was some challenges and things going on
Right,
with them.
because they lived apart for a little bit of that
Yes.
time too, which would be, I just can't imagine how traumatic that would be to be pulled from your home with parents who were evidently not doing a great job at that time.
Correct.
And then not even to have your fellow siblings with you. I would believe that'd be pretty scary.
Yeah, so they having left the home, of course, scary enough, like you said, and then really only having each other's bond as the last remaining the last remaining hope as you move along. They started to break them up, and they started to go to different foster homes, and that was devastating for them. They got to see each other from time to time, but it was never the same as being under the same roof. So whenever we actually had all 4 of them under the same roof when we took them into our care as foster parents.
Okay.
And then they've been together ever since. Yes.
Wow. And officially adopted, that you are their forever family.
That's right. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so cool, Jimmy.
Yeah. It is.
That
It's
is
been
so
quite
cool.
a blessing. It's been quite a ride.
That is quite a ride.
Yeah.
Because seriously, so you were 20 years, 21, 22 years with your wife, or it was just the 2 of you?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
And then the 4.
And then the 4. There's a lot of backstory there. There's
Okay.
a lot that led up to those moments. We weren't just like, oh, we don't want kids. We don't want kids. We, there was a lot of that in the plan, and then some of it came and some of it went, and we, towards the end, whenever we finally did get towards our adoption, there were some things and some anchor moments that I can explain.
Yeah.
As
Tell me about
this.
those.
Well, when you mention anchor moments, and I love the phrase anchor moments. I love the way what it means and what it does for for creating and thinking about memories that are significant in our lives.
Yeah. That you know that God was present
Correct.
in
Yeah.
those moments
Right.
for you.
looking back at what we would call anchor moments would be, most people might think that, okay, our anchor moment is this big bright light shining, and it was, and there's beautiful scenery and rainbows and everything. And I think the first one that comes to my mind was the loss of our second child from miscarriage. We had 2 miscarriages along our journey, and our second miscarriage was sort of an anchor moment, and filled with a bunch of little anchor moments along the way. One of the biggest heartbreaks we've ever experienced as a couple, nearly destroyed us. It was, if you know anybody that's experienced miscarriage, it is pretty devastating.
Oh, yeah.
It's really no less than the loss of a child.
Right.
And when we had seen and heard our baby's heartbeat, we were 13 weeks along, and things were running really well. We created this wonderful little announcement video that we made, and we put it on YouTube, and we shared it with our families, and it was so special and so wonderful, and it was a big surprise. And everybody was like, when's Jimmy and Michelle gonna have a baby? When is Jimmy and Michelle gonna have a baby? And we got to that point, and we were pregnant, and everything was wonderful. And we're like, this is our dream. It's happening.
Yeah.
And then it didn't. And so we were left with, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes with the heartbreak, comes with frustration, comes with anger. And when you talk about being in that low moment,
right, in grief,
all of those grief, those doubts start to come in. You start doubting God. Sometimes you even doubt God's existence.
Yeah.
And you think, how can you do this to me? I've been trying so hard for you and for my family, and this has been our dream, and then you get mad. All the stages of grief. Anger comes in, and we're just so upset, and we're just, what do we do now? And looking back at those moments, I really believe, and I know that God was really holding us. He was holding us through that heartbreak, and we were blaming him, but he was holding us. And he started to inject little bits of hope while we were kind of muddling through our depression.
Yeah.
And at the time, we had felt like we had no support, that nobody really understood our grief, that nobody really understood what it was like to lose a child like that. And like I said, we muddled through it, and we put one foot in front of the other, and we masked a lot of our grief, and we tried to pretend that it wasn't there. And then we'd come home at night, and we would just be a mess, and we would be at each other's throats, or whatever the case is. And all the while, like I said, God holding us, God being with us, and us not really recognizing it. But maybe that's by his design. We don't know. But we know that he had kind of roped us back into a conversation we had had previously, where Michelle and I had decided we wanted to adopt a child, or adopt more than one child. We weren't quite sure. It was part of a conversation of family planning from years before. And we tried to see a doctor in regards to IVF. We were going to try. We were going to try and get pregnant that way. We were both near the end of our child rearing years, and so we were kind of desperate. We were desperate. But all of that felt so. I know a lot of people do it, and a lot of people have success and have really happy families with it. We didn't. It didn't work out for us, and I'll be honest with you, for the most part, we felt like kind of a lab experiment.
Yeah, all those shots your wife would have to go to, the hormone shots and stuff for in vitro.
Yeah, well, I was giving her the shots. We had all this stuff in the house, and we were doing this, and we were checking her levels and all this stuff, and it didn't work out for us. So we revisited the conversation of adoption again. And when when that new light started to shine on
Yeah.
us, we started to feel a little bit better about creating a family. We started to look at family a little bit differently. We started to realize that, you know what, we can have a family,
Right.
but it's just going to be a little different than what you're used to. And it might look different than yours, and it might feel different, and but we feel like this is our calling. This is
Oh.
this is where we're going.
Yeah.
So we got our certification to adopt, and then the whole kind of concept just kind of went dry again. So it wasn't a moving wheel like we had thought it was going to be.
Uh-huh.
Once we got the certification and we had our meeting with our attorney and everything, we got no phone calls. We were expecting the phone to ring off the hook, and we're
Yeah.
like, hey, we're ready to have a kid. So that didn't work out. And
Can we pause for just a
Sure.
second? If there's anybody out in the audience right now and you have an unplanned pregnancy, remember that there are families that are out there that want to have a baby so bad. And I don't know why God doesn't just let everybody have babies who are ready to have them. I don't understand it, and I won't know until I go to heaven and talk to God about it and say, what was the plan here? Or maybe things happen and God didn't intend for any of that to happen, but then he puts people in place to help hold you while he's holding your heart. But if you are in a crisis situation and you're pregnant, please remember that there are beautiful people out there who would love, with beautiful souls, who would love to love your baby and could take care of it for you. So look into that. There are so many places that you can research. If you're watching this, that means you have some kind of device that could get to the internet and Google, where do I go to have someone adopt my child? And wherever it is you live, there's going to be somebody there that would be so excited and blessed to have your baby and to raise it and give it a happy family. And sometimes they even let you see the baby later. There's all kinds of different ways to do adoptions, a lot of different ways, a lot of different plans, but please consider that. I'm sorry, and now back to you,
that
Jimmy.
was a wonderful point, because there are more couples and families out there than you would imagine who are ready for children, but can't necessarily have biological children of their own, or
Right.
they don't want to. It's just there's a lot of
There's
different
a lot of different
yeah,
situations.
a lot of different. I mean, we know some couples who are fully capable but would rather adopt, and there's always excuse me, there's always a need for it. There are always families ready for children.
Right.
And
So you weren't getting any phone calls. You
Right,
put
we
all
weren't.
the paperwork out, and I'll tell you, I've known Jimmy and Michelle for a long time now, and I knew they would be awesome parents. And I used to pray for them. One time on Halloween, right minutes before I was going to leave to trick or treat with my own kids, Jimmy called me up and said, will you come over to the UPS store? And I was selling origami owl jewelry at the time. I want to create a special locket to surprise Michelle. And it was for your daughter, Rain, who had been miscarried, but still is always is your daughter. And I remember going, and I had a puppy costume on,
Yeah.
and with my puppy costume on, I brought you all my stuff, and you put it
Yes.
together. And I've been praying for you ever since, that you'd have a family, because you'd be such awesome parents, and they are. Oh my goodness, they're amazing parents.
And there you were in that again, that anchor moment where we were at a low at that point. You know, I was reaching out, and I was just trying to make something. I was just trying to create something special for Michelle, who was feeling really, terrible at the time, and we were just trying to work our way through it, like I said. And you said a magic word right there. You said the word rain, which is what we named our we named our baby, our unborn baby, Rain. That wasn't her intended name, because we had an idea of what we wanted to name our child, our firstborn child. We had we wanted to name our child, our firstborn child, either Tiziano or Tiziana, depending
Okay.
on if it was a boy or a girl. And it's an artist, it's an Italian artist that we kind of fell in love with from the Prado Museum in Spain when we went out to vacation on our 10th anniversary. And we fell in love with the name, we fell in love with his artwork, we fell in love with the whole idea, the art, and it was just it was beautiful back then. And we thought, we just love this name. It's so unique. You don't hear about it in the United States, and it's not, it's not out of this world strange, and
Yeah.
it just sounds so beautiful. So we kind of pocketed that. We kind of kept that in our hip pocket for a while, and then when we got pregnant, that was like right at the front, at the top of the list. Our firstborn kid's going to be named Tiziano or Tiziana, and then you say the word rain, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because another anchor moment after we had met our kids and we had requested more information about them, we went into this big room with all of these people, that caseworkers and
Yeah.
therapists and stuff like that, who knew the kids and knew them inside and out and were giving us information about them. And I knew everybody's middle name except one of our daughters, and I said, "Does she have a middle name?" And they said, "Oh," they look at the paperwork. Yeah, of course she does. We just, we just don't use it all the time." And they're looking at, "Oh, here it is, Rain."
Wow, you never told me that before,
I
Jimmy.
never-
That is a huge anchor moment.
Her middle
Wow.
name
Her middle name is Rain.
is Rain, and still is, by the way, because we could not get rid of that. And
No.
those moments, those times when you get like a little adrenaline rush,
Yeah.
and your goosebumps come up,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, there's more happening here than we can even imagine what we're thinking
Yeah.
about.
I mean, that is hugely a sign. I'm not very good with names, to be honest. You can ask my family and friends, and I'll never forget that your daughter's name was Rain. I used to teach kindergarten, so I've seen hundreds of names of little kids that I've had in my classroom, and I never met anybody whose name is Rain. And the only time I ever heard that as a name for somebody was for your daughter. And so for your new adopted daughter, that was already her middle name.
It was already there.
Before you said, yes, I'll take this family of 4 kids and go from 0 kids to 4 kids.
Yeah. And speaking of names, one of the anchor moments, having met the children, there's a story within that as well. And when the idea of adopting a baby was kind of running dry on us, and we really didn't know what to do with that, and we were invited to attend a foster care event where they would take kids basically on a little field trip, and then
Okay.
they would invite prospective adoptive parents to come to this event. And it's kind of like a mingling event where kids meet adults and they kind of mingle and they get to know each other and they sit down and talk, and it's like speed dating for families, that you just go and you sit down and you talk. But the theme at the time was, it was kind of a little ranch, like like an entertainment ranch where people go and you can pet animals and stuff like that.
Aw.
And so what they do is they get everybody who's going to meet somebody in the same color T-shirt. So everybody had a blue T-shirt on that was a parent or that a possible parent, and then all of the foster kids from around the state were brought to this one place, and they all had the blue T-shirts on too. And so they kind of let you all out there, and you go and you meet some, and you talk to them, and you it's kind of weird, but you
Yeah.
get to know them, they get to know you for a little bit, and then at the end of it all, they ask you, well, is there anybody that you were possibly interested in? Is anybody you want more information about, any of these kids? And we were at that thing, and we were just, I think in the morning, I got nothing more out of that then a whole lot of heartbreak, a whole lot of. I'd seen a bunch of kids who whose hearts were just completely broken.
Yeah.
And
Who are you supposed to trust?
exactly.
Your parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And their parents were doing some things that
Yeah.
totally break that trust.
Mm-hmm. And now all these kids are in a situation where they kind of have to put their best foot forward and put a smile on their face and pretend that all their past traumas aren't there and look good, look good under the lights and just trying to impress adults. And that's what I saw. And it was heartbreaking for me because in the morning I was getting more and more sort of just sad and discouraged. And then lunch came, and we all got in this big hall, and it was all the kids and all the parents and everything, and some of the social workers and foster parents and stuff like that all got in this big hall room, and we're having lunch. And I told Michelle, I'm going to go talk to this kid over here, and I went and sat and talked to this kid, and she decided not to go to that one. And when I was done talking to that kid, I went back to her and I said, how's it going? What do you want to do now? And she said, I want to go talk to that girl over there. And she was pointing at this young girl who was, getting some juice or something. And I said, okay, let's go. So we went over there, and nobody was talking to her. That's one of the things. It's like you don't want to be rude when someone else is talking to a kid.
Right, because maybe that's their connection.
Yeah, but then you're like, I really want to talk to that kid, so you wait, or, it's really kind of awkward, or you don't want to interrupt and say, do you mind if I talk to this child? Anyway, she was by herself, and she went up to her, and she goes, hi, what's your name? And the little girl goes, I'm Tessiana. And here we go with the names again, right?
Oh my gosh, that was one of the names that you wanted, and that is an unusual name.
Yes, really, really close. So that name was so close, and we, Michelle and I just looked at each other like, did she just say that? And sure enough, yeah, she did. And then when her foster parent at the time noticed we were talking to her, she kind of got the attention of 3 other little kids. They all kind of lined up and said, go over here and meet these people. And so they came up, and they all lined up, all 4 of them. They all lined up right in front of us and introduced themselves to us. And that was another moment for us where it just kind of, we were kind of hit like that, right?
Are those the 4 that you adopted?
They are the 4, yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so.
Wow, that is a huge. So one of your daughters, now, her is, say her name again?
Tiziana.
Tiziana. And her middle name isn't Rain.
No.
So both girls had a name that you would have used if you had had a biological child.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And those are, I've never taught a girl with that name either, or seen anybody else with that name.
I know they have they have unique names, and
yes.
And we just.
And they were called to be your kids.
We just, we couldn't explain it any other way. We couldn't walk away from that. And getting to know the siblings and the boys too, getting to know them, that we spent maybe, I don't know, a good half an hour to an hour with them after that. We went to a craft room, and we sat there, and we were talking to their foster parents and their workers and other people who were associated with them. And our idea of going to this event was just to meet people. We had no intention, we had no expectation. We really just wanted to get out and kind of just
explore the idea.
Yeah, just walk out of the kind of rut that we were in and just kind of look and see. But it became, at that point, I started to think inside, like, this could really be our path. And when we sat and talked with the lady at the end, she said, was there anybody you're interested in? And that's the first thing we said. What about that sibling group? And we offered the names, and they gave us that they gave us that in, and then we started to get to know, and then one thing led to another. And I mean, talk about anchor moments. They're just one.
Oh, they are the coolest family.
It's like a path.
Oh my gosh, they're the coolest family. They volunteer at the Stuff with Love boutique that we'll talk about on a different day because we have 2 minutes left. But they volunteer together as a family and do things helping the community and helping other people. They are the most joyful things to see together. It's just amazing. The healing, you can see that these kids, the healing, that they have someone to be their forever home. And in this 1 minute, I think we should pray right now for adoptions.
Absolutely.
So, God, please help anyone in our audience right now who wants to have a family and for whatever reason they're struggling to be able to do that. Please help them open their hearts and arms to consider adopting a family or being that special place that a child can go to and in foster care, in transition, to be able to get out of a violent situation. And for anyone out there who has a baby or is pregnant with a baby and it's a crisis for them and they don't feel that now is the time for them to be a parent, to please consider giving their beautiful, beautiful bundle to somebody who's aching to have a kid to love and cherish. And is there anyone else on your heart, Jimmy?
I just want to pray for the nearly 500,000 kids who are in foster care in the United States who don't have families to go home to and don't have that stabilized love and who need the care. They really need the care of loving parents.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Well, everyone, anchor those moments in your life and make it a great day. Bye-bye.
The preceding program was brought to you by the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, HSBN Television.